Well, things so far have been kind of a bit of a circus so far, I'd say. Yeah, so there's just been a very big story. It's, to put it bluntly, I know the reflection of this avatar has changed a bit, if that makes any sense. But basically, in the time since everything has gone on, so in the time since I've, you know, been on the channel, I have, I've uploaded some videos, but it's too exhausted to upload like the source files. So I have 3 videos unpublished at the moment. And unfortunately, I lacked the energy to do it at the time. I should have done so though, because that particular computer is in unknown condition at the moment. Heard a lot. The fan once again derped out the same way it kind of forced me to delay a lot of things. Sure, I got a lot of nice creative stuff going on this, but like it wasn't anything I would consider useful. In that, like, it just felt kind of like the whole situation was a complete mess. Unfortunately, yeah, I was like in the middle of gaming, once again, a 3D heavy game, and then the fan gives out. It's unfortunate, and I'm using my non-personal computer here, and as a result of that, it's kind of not a ideal situation, and there's less I can do. Though it is a better computer than what I started with, because funnily enough, in the course of my responsibilities, for a brief moment, I was without a computer, and I could still lose this one because this computer earlier today blue screened with a watchdog blue screen. So that's fun. So no, I've had this past 2 years, I've had a very big turnover when it comes to technology. I made creative stuff with technology, but I'm having a lot of issues with technology itself actually functioning, and it's kind of annoying, and I don't know what to do about it. Like, I suppose I could just say that's like it's kind of like it just hurts dealing with all this because I want to do a proper podcast, but the way my computers are going, I might only end up being just a good guest, I suppose, or and how to do things over a call, which is not ideal. Or I do the other approach, and I do some stuff with recording and OBS. I would probably need a little bit better computer to do that with any game besides Minecraft, because I don't even know if this computer could really run that. But like, it'll run Minecraft fine, and I know it'll run my Avatar thing fine. Though I have ways using Windoroid and windowed mode, I can overlay my avatar on something, but like that's not really going to work for most games. But then again, it works for Minecraft. The one in here, but again, Valve games you can run them in a window. Not and sure, this machine might do Valve games, but I don't think that's exactly in the card that they like do gaming on this computer. It may be intended for gaming, unlike the old one, but yeah. So I'm using a. It's just I've had a lot of just unfortunate things go on this past few while. And in terms of responsibilities, well, the way they've gone has only made me less and less charitable towards, the concept of mathematics. Like again, I'm in I'm going for the computer pathway, but all the lead up to it doesn't exactly involve math in a way that I consider pleasant. What I mean by this is that like I've had tons of, you know, math, and it's not been fun. I can't stand the subject. a bit of a personal note is like basically, I have handwriting that is not exactly, you can't read it. Furthermore, to add insult to injury, another problem with my handwriting is that it's big and I cannot keep columns straight, and I even have issues with you know just it just doesn't work out. And but it also affects like in the way that like my handwriting is very messy too, and that's because I I'm just always, it feels like I'm never able to draw a clean line, clean angle, or clean circle. So geometry wasn't too bad because like, you could approximate the shapes reasonably fine, but it had to be said that every graphing unit was an automatic grade doc, basically. It was an automatic grade doc where, like, so it just kind of soured me on math. But I had noticed my ability to process math has actually gotten worse over time, which is kind of unfortunate. Meanwhile, my technical prowess has improved greatly over the years. A lot of my just can't even look at anymore, or content. It's something like how I can't even like look at content I had to leave unfinished for reasons beyond my control. I want to say it's a good thing, but like the problem I have is it's math. I can't. It just, and that's the source of my worries right now. It's just not been pleasant. I want to say and this has been kind of. It's gotten me pretty emotional these days, and I've unfortunately it's unfortunately spilled over in ways I don't exactly like find productive. It's spilled over, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the spillover that's going on here has caused significant, you know, problems. Problems. And I wouldn't say significant yet, now that I think about it, but it's more that what it has caused is simply just a whole bunch of stuff that didn't need to happen. A bunch of things that were kind of just, and unfortunately, like I just like, just it's such a nasty subject that I end up just sort of not taking it well, I suppose, and that's what I would describe the situation as entailing. Because math is just kind of, it's something and so that's part of my issues. And unfortunately, like I'm a very, very, very good writer. I just can't stand math. I know, ironic, because someone in the technology sector. I know. Yeah, I get it. I just don't really have. I mean, I don't really have any other choices. If that makes any sense. Like, sure, it's a little hard to be happy about a lot of this given everything. And well, it just I've had a lot of plans that I want to do this break on my computer, only for them to be yet again dashed by the computer itself. Ironic, this happened, Christmas 2023, and I without that, it's just a complete rigmarole that I have to go through that just completely turns into a complete pile of junk, and I don't like dealing with it. Like, it's just not worth it. But you know, at least I managed to at least mitigate some of the problems for myself by preparing it ahead in advance. Probably should have done some more. Thankfully, I could. Again, I'm going to have everything remains to be seen. I'm probably going to do another backup, find my drive, and do another backup of other things, be it website or a lot of other things, and try to just unify things. And if I have to get a new computer, well, that will be its own adventure. And I'm probably gonna, do I even want to stick with the laptop is the question because, all the computers I've ever had that have, caused issues for the most part have been laptops. Doesn't matter what vendor. It's, hard. And unfortunately, for the same reason that makes my handwriting awful, it kind of also makes, fine intricate repairs. Like I always have trouble trying to screw things back in when I'm like, doing, you know, around the house stuff. Like because what happens is, I can never get something to be steady. Like there's a lot of things where I just try to unscrew something and it just doesn't work. It just the whole thing just implodes. It just doesn't work. Like I keep trying to do it and it just keeps wobbling and wobbling, and there's nothing I can do about it. So, and of course, mind you, the fact that I know now I don't have a computer with a gaming GPU that is, in a pseudo state to be leaved on a while, it's like, well, all that CUDA stuff no longer matters. But then again, 8 gigs of VRAM ain't much. So, it is what it is. But, well, as I say, que sera, sera. Truthfully, this whole endeavor has been kind of sad, and I wish, but, at least over the past year, and my summer was an absolute disaster because of a renovation that went horribly wrong and may have even contributed to the current situation, and certainly didn't make going into the events of 6 months ago very pleasant. And it just, yeah, no, a lot has been robbed from me, and I don't exactly find it happy. I wish I could say that, and that it's all fine and dandy, but it's not. Another thing I should, clarify that is very important here is that eventually my eventual plans for this whole situation with, my whole plans for this channel, all that are to, and I quote, the plans are, as I think, like I'm inspired by, some channels that I used to respect. Well, it's not like I would. Well, I still respect at least one of them, but well, it just doesn't hit the same for me anymore, I guess. But you know, I want to, be well versed in, in, bringing back the, when things were a lot more relevant to how things go in my side of things, but not in my side. I mean, like in terms of my own experiences and all that. If that makes any sense, it feels kind of like there's a lot of stuff going on. It just doesn't feel like it's anything happy in terms of, but basically the idea being is there's stuff like story times of these update videos, but eventually I would want to do something a bit more important, if that makes any sense. Something, that would be helpful. But I wish it was, a cool thing, but, it just feels kind of sad, honestly. And quite frankly, I wish things were better, but unfortunately, I don't have a choice. It just feels kind of like there's a lot of things I wish I could do, but for now, we'll have to do a lot of things that are happy. But, you know, it's been my experience that there's just a lot of stuff going on that doesn't need to happen. But if I had to give you a word of advice, it's more just because something says it's actually useful doesn't mean it necessarily is. Like, this can apply to advice too. Like, you know, I at least try to, a lot of the advice I give is like an example of here's what you probably shouldn't do because there is a genuine reason the idea is kind of bad. But at the same time, what works for me may not work for you, and so on and so forth. And, if it is a balancing act, a fine, delicate balancing act. And, you know, I feel like it's kind of, in a way, a cool idea to at least do things the simple way in terms of, you know, a solution that, find a third way, one where everybody wins. But the main question is, does any of that actually have any useful applications? And of course, if it doesn't, well, then that makes for just a complete can of worms. But truthfully, that I mean, eventually, I feel like beyond just stories, like I'd have a very interesting, you know, time talking about things I care about. Like, I have like the stories don't have to be like, life stories or anything. They can be stuff like, tech stories about or things that I've, been involved with or, you know, seen or just, my take on how technology things are these days. And no, I'm not going to go into the, people saying, oh, hey, there's imminent doom or whatever. No, that's not even on the table here. Okay. But, it's been my experience that, if you're going to, there's some heartwarming technology stories. There's technology stories in which, the independent, resourceful sectors do a lot more with technology than a lot of its creators ever realized, or at least the people who, codified the main standard, if you will. Now, I know a lot of the tech people out there would probably be, you know, it just feels like I'm, dealing with people who, for one reason or another, it just doesn't feel like I'm, dealing with the it just doesn't feel like I'm dealing with the best technology luck, quite frankly. But also, it just feels kind of just sad that I'm having to deal with a lot of things I don't want to have any part in, and it just kind of tearing me up. And I mean, I wasn't planning on doing this video today. In fact, I wasn't planning to do it for a bit. And in fact, when my other computer failed, but when I had to realized I had to make an announcement, I wouldn't say failed, more like just it would be more like it's kind of bugged, or yeah, again, more hair in the fan, or it could be any number of other things. So as a result of that, I think it's probably best if you know, it's. So I figure this is a lot less processing power than the game I was playing at the time. So, you know, I guess I am a podcast host now, I suppose. Though, you know, I'm a VTuber. Yeah. It just feels like, I'm always, yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty sure with some good editing. The other problem is though I still need to get my mic settings dialed in and I don't know how it sounds. So let's hope I didn't record this entire update video in complete gibberish. Otherwise, I'd have a really hard time trying to explain to my audience just how I have to explain this whole explanation all over again, and that will not be a fun time. Or maybe I just drop consonants because of how I speak or how fast it is. I don't know, but well, I guess there's one way to find out. I suppose. Let's just do it.